when I told the story of that I was like overwhelmed with this deep suffering from my, the abuse from my father, and that, then that catalyzed into a whole awakening process. And, when I got thrown in hospitals and that whole thing, my subjective experience, what I was experiencing, which made no sense at that moment, stuff began happening in my life it was physically impossible. That could only happen in dreams. Particularly, I was beginning to meet my teachers these great enlightened beings. When I was around them, it was like the 3D space-time continuum would just, change, and physically impossible stuff would begin to happen.
How so? How so? What was happening?
Yeah, I don't really talk about it, so I don't, it's not, one example that I can give you, but this isn't quite a physical impossible thing. This is like a completely ridiculously unlikely thing.
Okay.
When I had my awakening, I got hit by a bolt of lightning. The next day, I'm acting so enthusiastic and excited about what I'm realizing. I get brought by ambulance, to a hospital, into my first psych ward. They bring me in to the lounge. The patients were there. They just had dinner. I see a blind woman. Her eyes are blind. She's an older woman. And I didn't think about anything. I just spontaneously went right up to her and was looking in her eyes, and her eyes are opaque. Clearly she has no vision. And out of my mouth just spontaneously comes the words, all you have to do to see is open your eyes and look. And I keep on repeating those words, getting closer to her, staring in her eyes. The whole thing took a minute. She regained her sight. And right at that moment, as if choreographed, they came and they took me and they strapped me up on a bed where I spent the night. And then just to complete the story, the next day, they unstrapped me. They put me in a room. Who's the only other person in the room is that ex-blind woman. She's smiling at me, not saying a word. All of a sudden, my heart chakra just blossoms. And I understand, she was hysterically blind. She inwardly was not letting herself look, and that was manifesting as her, physical blindness. And somehow she was ready to heal her blindness. And I was like the Uber driver who was like in the area, and I got called to and I just played my role and said my lines. It was like I was given a script. It fell in my head.
Yeah.
And that helped her to heal. And then she said to me, the only word she ever said to me, she goes, aren't you going to answer the phone call from? And she mentions my father's name. And then within seconds, the nurse comes in the room and says, Paul, your father's on the phone, because my parents had just gotten word that I had had a supposed psychotic break. And so now I want to point out that wasn't a physically impossible event. That was a synchronistic event that was highly improbable, that, I just happened to be, to say whatever I said, and it helped her to heal, something like that. But that's the one experience that I've been given permission, by spirit and by my guidance to openly talk about. But then there was all this other stuff that, that was a minor experience compared to what happened next over the next year and a half. And all the while I'm getting thrown in mental hospitals and pathologized and diagnosed. But an experience like that saved my life, because when you have an experience like the one I just told you with the blind woman, you totally know you're not mentally ill. You totally know, I'm having a spiritual awakening, and these psychiatrists who are telling me I have a chemical imbalance, they have no idea. So that's what I mean. It saved my life.
Wow. This is not the first time, and it won't be the last that I've heard that. We had a guest on the show a couple of times, Mark Wolin. He wrote a book called It Didn't Start With You, which is family constellations, past life regression. And he had something where he actually started to have blindness in his eye. And he looked at his relationship specifically with his mother, his inability to connect with her. And as he dove into the inner work, and as he understood that he himself was creating the partial blindness, the blindness cleared. Now, people might look at that and they might be like, that's crazy. I don't believe that. Well, I do, because psychosomatic exists.
Yeah. And the thing about that, in that being blind, in when you read the Bible, they'll talk about a mind blindness, and they'll talk about that it's self-induced, and Wetiko is a self-induced form of blindness. You see, when we see Wetiko and we turn away and we turn a blind eye, we're feeding Wetiko. That turning away is Wetiko. So it's not like there's any external blindness. We ourselves are creating our own blindness. And I want to just point out that experience I just told with the blind woman, I've been contemplating that for over 40 years now. And it's clear to me that something was being shown to me, because that actually totally articulates on, with reference to the situation of humanity, that we ourselves have fallen blind, and there's nothing in our way for us to heal our blindness. And we can actually just open our eyes and look. And that's, in essence, what my work is about, is trying to have people open their eyes and see Wetiko, how it operates not only through the non-local field, but in our minds via our reactions. And when you see it, like I've been saying, you take away its power. Because here's the thing: when you see how Wetiko operates in the physical world, with like the whole vaccine thing, or the Ukraine thing, or whatever,
or gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a big Wetiko.
Yeah. The point is that what you're seeing out there is an external reflection of a process going on inside of us.
Check out some of the videos on this screen that are perfectly curated based on the video you just saw. Make sure you follow me, and I'll see you in the next video.